Hey everyone, J-Rob Plays here, and today I'm going to be going over a video about 7 mistakes that I made early and just throughout my process of leveling up my characters and how the system works. Since I didn't do the beta all the way through, I just played like the first few levels. I wasn't prepared for this in the acclaim system, and so hopefully this guide will help newer players kind of make sure to navigate their process properly so that they're happy with their in-game team, because the team will really depend on how you decide to play your characters, and you have to really focus on 3 characters, and I'll get more into that as we go. So the very first tip that I want to make is for early game players, and that's to make sure to spread out your commissions across all your characters early, and that's going to be the daily commissions. So if you actually open up your map, if you come out here, you can either do it through here or you can just hit whatever your map key is. But if you go to Jiangxi Metro or Red Sea Rift and you go into the main area, you'll have your vendors, and these vendors will offer you daily commissions. Those daily commissions will just have you follow like a blue waypoint out in the map and do a couple of little small encounters where you defeat a bunch of normal enemies or a major, and then you'll go and defeat another bunch of normal enemies and a major, and so on and so forth. You do that about 3 or 4 times, and then you're done for the day. You get reputation, a good chunk of reputation, with whatever planetary destination you've chosen, and you get proficiency. Now, the reason why proficiency is important is because whenever you're trying to do the quest for these characters, each character is going to have their own special quest line. If you bring up the quest tab and you come over here and you look and see which characters are available, you'll see that some are inaccessible for me. And the reason why is because I don't have their proficiency high enough. So if we're going to Tan2 right now, his proficiency is only 6 because I just picked him up. With Ning Feng, he was actually the first 5-star that I got, but as you can see, he's still only at 109. He needs to be to 180 to continue. And the reason for that is that I didn't know this early, but doing those commissions across all of your characters will help you level them up for free. Because the only other way that you're going to be able to level them as far as their proficiency is by spending points. So if you go to About Proficiency, you'll see that it says that there's a quantitative view of a light bearer's mastery, and it's a sum of the acumen and acquired acumen. So original acumen is you gain 1 point of original acumen for every pinnacle energy you spend. So that's why it's a finite resource, and that's why it's good to do the commissions across your characters, because that way you don't have to spend a bunch of your pinnacle power on your characters just trying to get them leveled up. And in the late game, you have to apply that pinnacle power to specific tasks, which your characters may not be high enough level to complete. So you're kind of in a catch-22. Do I waste my pinnacle power trying to get my characters up so I can do their story? Or do I just allow these characters to fall behind and not do their story like some of mine are? Now, you can also get acquired acumen. That's if you get the MVP. I believe it's like 3. So it'll add up over time, but really the easiest way is when you're doing your daily commissions, just make sure that you're picking the character that you're trying to do the story on next. So for me right now, my focus was Yolder, and you'll see here that I've been steadily working her up. As I click on Yolder here, you'll see she's at 142 out of 180, and this is just from doing the commissions. I haven't actually spent any of my pinnacle energy on Yolder to get her to this point. It's all just been through the daily commissions and then some early play that I had. And so with Yolder, if I do get impatient, I can still spend 40 on her because she's kind of getting higher up there now that I've been focusing on her a little bit as like a 4th character. But for the most part, they're going to stay behind because the acclaim system requires you to focus on 3 characters. And that's going to bring me to my next point. Most content creators early are going to tell you that you want to focus your points into Wolf, and there's a reason behind that, but it's not the best advice overall. Now, the reason why you want to max out Wolf early is because you want to make sure that Wolf can actually complete the story components, because some of them can get challenging as it goes on. However, you don't really need to be that far along to beat the story. The story actually helps Wolf quite a bit now that I've actually played through the whole campaign. So I would say maybe you would probably only have to get him to like 12 out of this. Maybe these 2 nodes here. You don't really need the stronger Scorch. And then definitely you don't need all of these nodes here. I would say, you get like maybe like 2 or 3 in and you're fine. If you really want to get to 4, that's fine. But going beyond that is a lot of investment in Wolf. And so if you don't want Wolf to be the main character, Wolf's kind of going to look like my Kabir looks. Like my Kabir was kind of a character that I was doing like on the side, and I stopped working with him because I got other characters that were stronger. Atal for me was kind of chosen for me because I got all of her orbs and I was able to fill out her talent tree. And I'm a Warlock main from Destiny 2, so it was fine. I didn't have time to. I said, let's fine, let me just take Atal. I can be the group healer. I can have good sustain when I'm out there, and I'm able to survive pretty well with her too. And her precision weapons are good. I really like her Crimson, and her linear fusion is pretty crazy. So it can keep up with a lot of the classes. Obviously, it's not as good as Tan2 because she doesn't have anything like a Phosphorus, and she can only boost her super. But the whole idea is that I was able to get her into a pretty good state just naturally playing the game. I didn't actually specifically pick at all. The game kind of chose her for me, which brings me to my third point. My third point is to not allow the exotics that drop to choose the character for you. And that brings us back to Kabir. Kabir was actually the first character outside of Wolf that had an exotic, and it was the Furies 3. And so I was really excited. The Furies 3 kind of creates like a crit spot, kind of like Divinity and Destiny 2. And so I started putting a lot of points and putting resources into Kabir, which I don't really use very often now. And he's high enough to do certain things. He's high enough to do most stuff, but he's not high enough to do the final in-game content. And the enemies and the way things are when the in-game, when you're doing timed missions and things like that, Kabir's kit is just not really conducive to getting through those time missions effectively. Like Wolf is really good for me, again, because I have him really high light and I put a lot into him, so he's fast and he's powerful. And then the Smart Bomb has that sustained with your heavy ammo where you can convert your super into heavy, so you hardly ever use your actual super. You're just making the super heavy rounds, and you're using kind of the super as your ammo generation, so you really never run out of heavy with him. And that's what's good for him when you're doing some of the heroic missions on the challenge section. Gwen was chosen for me too because she was my early 5-star as well. I got her right behind Ning Feng, and she was really good, and I liked her. So I started putting stuff into her, and I happened to get Chaperone with her. Now, I know a lot of people like to use the Concerto. I don't have that yet, but for me, I'm kind of sticking with the Chaperone because I really like the precision damage. It's really good against Shinkas. It stuns them really fast. The Chishingura that I have is really strong. It's got Fraternity, which when everybody's alive, I have a maximum boost. In most cases, everybody's alive. And then Final Blows stack up to 5, and they stay with me as they stack up. So I have her pretty much set up really well. So she ended up being my third character because, again, Atal was full on the talent tree. Wolf, I had already invested in him. He was already kind of too far of an investment. I was committed, so I really didn't have a choice with Wolf. But, you know, I'm still happy with him. However, as my third character, I would have rather have Yolder. At the moment, I didn't have Yolder's submachine gun, the Huckleberry, so she wasn't exactly competitive. And I had to make a choice, and the choice was to go with Gwen. Now, the reason why I was forced to make a choice is once you get to level 80, you open up the acclaim system, and the acclaim system is going to open up alongside of a lot of the other hard mode stuff. So you kind of get like a lot of extra things to do that you didn't have before, and it seems a little overwhelming at first, especially because there's a lot of new menus, and there's a lot of stuff popping up, and you're kind of going through all of these menus, like what's happening. But ideally, all you have to do is just pay attention to what you have in your stock. If you have any engrams that allow you to pull for these weapons, you're going to want to pull these weapons from those, and that way you get little bits of acclaim here and there. And the really cool thing that they thought ahead on this is that when you get more acclaim than the level that you're on, it actually continues to accumulate. You're not like stuck where you can get acclaim and it doesn't count for anything. It'll actually count, and then once they unlock higher level caps of acclaim, you'll automatically go to those level caps as long as you've cleared the gate. Now that's the main reason for tip number 4, is that before you spend your daily energy, you want to look at what your unit needs to level up, and you want to make sure that you're using that to drive your ability to get through these gates. And so what I mean by that is under Legends, if you look at your unit, so we'll look at Wolf for example, you have gold medal quests, you have silver medal quests, and bronze medal quests. And so when I first started out, I had to get Wolf's relic power up to 13,900. And so the relic power is going to be whenever you get into your actual relic abilities and you come down here, it's going to show you the power. And so the relic power will go up as long as you're unlocking all of these nodes. Each time you unlock the node, it'll tell you how much power you gain. So there's 800 apiece for this. And then you can see here, each section shows how much the next one will gain. So the next gain for me is going to be from 2,800 to 3,600 once I fill in this last node. Now these aren't as clear because they don't really like say it out loud, but there's like a little button you can click here and here. Right now mine doesn't exist because I'm maxed out. But if I go to a character that's not maxed out, for example, and you click here, you can kind of see this is the next level. This is what it's going to do. Here's your power increase. And that's how you can track your power increase between some of the upgrades, so you can really make an informed decision and decide, is this currency that I'm going to spend worth this amount of upgrade, and so on and so forth. Do I really need this on this character? Now going back into the acclaim system, the reason why I mentioned gates and what I mean by gates is that along the progress bar, there's going to be large numbers. As you can see, I just passed number 2, but here you are going through 1. Each section will show you what you unlocked as you go through these acclaim areas. And I'll go over the bonuses here in a second, but while I'm here, let me just talk to you about the gates and what they entail. So in this gate here, it says this tier increase requires 3 bronze medals in order to get through. Now what it means by bronze medals is under your legends, when you look at your characters, as you fill out these requirements, you'll actually start to get progress. As you can see, I'm halfway through my gold here on these medals. And these medals will accumulate to allow you to unlock things in your claim, called acclaim bonuses. Now, with the acclaim bonuses, all you have to do to unlock as far as currency goes is to be a certain level and have a certain medal that you haven't used yet. So right now I don't have any gold, silver, or bronze medals because those medals have been invested. And you can see the investments when you click on some of these that are already kind of chosen. So this one I've done the extra lightning companion, boosted artifact drops. You can see I'm on my 3rd tier. The first 2 tiers are actually really strong. The first one being you get it in the first place, and the second one gives you a 21% drop rate increase. And then a lot of these are going to be similar to that. So this one here, same thing, 21%, and then Mobius cluster drop rate increase is 150%. So those initial investments are going to give you the biggest bump, and then from there they're just slight bumps going through. And so that's kind of how you're going to plan out your upgrades as well. You want to pay attention, make sure you get everything to that 2nd tier, and then you can kind of even it out from there. So now going back to what your character needs for that daily energy, in this case, in order to get gold, for example, my wolf's going to need 64,600 power, and I need to upgrade wolf's artifact gilding to level 21. I've already done Grandmaster difficulty content without dying. That's just some of the hard mode stuff. It counts as Grandmaster for you. And then I believe some of maybe the story mode, like the hardened story mode challenges might give you that as well. And then Wolf Flame, that's just using his enhanced abilities. Sometimes it'll proc again and you can use it back to back, and you just do this 10 times and you get a large chunk as well. And so that's going to be kind of the smaller requirements it'll have you do. It'll have you start acquiring the character, upgrading the character, and going through doing certain small things with each character. Atal, for example, needs to play with Gwen at some point, and vice versa. This one is really easy, defeating 50 combatants of any race with your abilities. So it's not like a crazy ask, but it's just still something that you want to keep in mind on the tasks to do. Now, I want to talk about gilding because that's going to be the main thing that you're going to want to put your shopping list together for. So when you talk about gilding, if you go into your artifact, over here on the top right corner, you'll notice that you may have a green arrow showing you that there's still something to do here. When I come into here, there's going to be a new menu opened up. This didn't exist until you actually get into the Acclaim system. From here, you can actually add to your stats to make yourself tankier, to give yourself better recovery, to give yourself more base health, and this will help you complete the harder levels and the harder difficulty by giving you that survivability. Now, what the guild means is just choosing one of these nodes and activating the node, and each node tells you how much it costs, and there's increasing costs as things go along. Right now, the reason why I don't have these nodes filled out is because these particular artifactual clusters are not available yet, and they will be available in a few days when the Grandmaster stuff releases. So right now I'm as high as I can get, but if I were to have, for example, that very first little challenge to get 9 of these, that means that all I'd have to do is come through here and get 9 of these. And so what I do and what I would recommend you doing is making a shopping list so that you can kind of focus on what you're doing and kind of keep clear where you're at in your grind. And so this is what my shopping list looks like here. So right now I have Wolf, and I've counted up how many fruit I need for all of these nodes, and it's going to be 126. From here, I can see how many I have, how much I'm going to need for the rest of these, and then where that stuff is available. So, for example, I still have 10 fruit available for me in the celebration event. That's the one where you do your daily quests, and it'll actually give you medals, and then there's certain thresholds for spending enough pinnacle power, you get medals as well. And again, doing the high-end bounties, it'll have you do that too. This one is a solar limited bundle in that same category. So those are 2 things that I can buy that I have available to me once I hit these thresholds. Now these are going to be silver bundles. If I do get into a bind and I decide, hey, I'm going to buy into this, these are things that I'm tracking. But as you can see, I have the free fruit, and then I have how much is needed from the 9 that's going to be running the chaos event. Whenever you run chaos, you actually get 2 chests if you do heroic, 3 chests if you do the harder difficulty. I think it's called master, and those are going to be how you get your fruit. They're random. You don't get to specifically choose them, but the ones that you can are places that are in your exchange. So if you go into your exchange, there's going to be different options for you, and you'll be able to take advantage of those as you go through here to buy them. So you're going to want to check every single section. You're going to want to make sure that you've purchased anything that you can that's like on a monthly or a weekly basis. If you have any dust or anything like that, and there happens to be these resources, you want to make sure you purchase them before you go out and try to spend your pinnacle energy, because you're kind of doubling up. At least now you can spend your pinnacle energy somewhere else. One of the major places that I was able to get fruit from was going to be the shifting gates. So if you do a couple of shifting gates and you kind of do these little weekly challenges throughout the week, while spending your pinnacle energy in a timely fashion. You want to make sure that you know how many you're going to spend and kind of limit yourself, that we don't waste it all here. But you get your first 25 of this resource, the translation credit, free, and then you can go into the exchange, and from here you can get the elemental fruit chests, you can get mythic infusion core chests, actually you can get Bon Voyage charms, you can get luminite chests. This gives you that option every week to have like a nice little boost. This will help you save some of that time in the chaos event. That way you don't have to do the chaos activity over and over and over again and spend your pinnacle energy there. You kind of double up by spending your pinnacle energy here. Not only do you get these additional rewards, but you get this translation credit, you get actual seasonal rank rewards, and then as you get a higher current rank, you'll be able to get rewards here in the form of Lumia Leaves, and this is just for performance. This will get you higher and higher until you actually get the title, and then you get a little charm at the end if you can get all the way up here. Although I've heard that here there's not a lot of people matchmaking, so it may be quite a bit of time if you get to the top end, so just keep that in mind. If you do really well, you kind of overplay your shifting gates, you may be stuck not being able to do shifting gates very easily because you have to wait a long time for matchmaking to occur, because there's not that many people in that range. Now, one of the other things that I came across as I was running through the game that I really wasn't paying attention to was that here on these destinations, especially on the Red Sea Rift, because it's like a higher level destination, you're going to have chests that are just going to be lying around on the ground. And the great thing about Destiny Rising is that you don't need a ghost mod to see where everything is. As you're driving about, as long as you're paying attention to your radar up in the corner there, it'll tell you where vendors are, it'll tell you where any of the collectibles are. So like right when you come out on the Red Sea, you're going to turn here and you're going to shoot these collectibles and you'll get the Red Sea gel. There's a fourth one here, and then there's pretty reliably always a chest right in front of us here. So I'm going to come up and double check and see. There's one up there to my left, and yep, there's one right here too, and they tend to spawn in the same place. And you want to come here and you want to grab these every day if you have a little bit of extra time until it tells you that you're maxed out. Because as you see, I got illuminated ground from there. Now, yes, it's a blue and it's 70, and once you get to a higher level, it's going to have very little use to you as far as using that as a mod. But what you end up doing is you end up taking your mods that you have and you end up combining them with like certain mods to get better stats, or you end up trying to re-roll those mods to get better stats, and you may get a new mod that's got better stats and you need to level that mod up. Well, if you go into your artifacts here, and then you go to the mods that you're trying to level up, let's say I want to level up this mod here, and I go to modify. Now that I've done that, I actually have free infusion material, and I can save my pile of artifactual dust, I can save my heap of artifactual dust, so I don't have to waste these things, and I can save them for my exotic ones that actually take quite a bit. And that way I can have the artifacts that I need, and I can have those blues ready to kind of fill just like the artifactual dust does, and I can get that maxed out a lot quicker. So that's another quick tip, is to just run around and grab the chest until you get a message saying you've grabbed all the destination chests you can for the day. And this is something to do, of course, if you just run out of things to do. As you can see, I've already done everything as far as my pinnacle energy for today, and I'm saving my reserve pinnacle energy just in case I get into a bind, or I'm like right next to a gate and I can knock out 3 or 4 activities and get exactly what I need to get to a certain power level. Now, the last thing that I want to get to is talking about the new characters that are coming. Whenever you have time-limited events, you're only going to have a few ways of getting these characters. You're either only going to be able to spend the Bon Voyage charms that are limited, or you can spend your Lumia Leaves. Now me, I was actually rolling again and again for Gwen because I was trying to get another copy of Gwen so that I can get further along in her talent tree. I was thinking to myself, well, she's going to be, one of my main characters, so if I can get here, I can get the additional soul assaults, and I can kind of get through here. And I was really just trying to get these copies and burning through my Lumia Leaves, and I didn't consider that there's going to be new characters coming out. So in a few days with the new season, there's going to be a new character that has summons, and there might be even a second character from what I might have seen. But for sure, there's going to be a new limited character, and so this character is only going to be available here as a limited one, not in the permanent ones. Now, my understanding is that these guaranteed draws for Gwen will carry over to the new character, and so when the new character comes in, I'll still have the capability of getting that limited character in 49 pools, and that'll kind of transfer over. So it's not always lost if you've spent some or you're close to getting a guarantee. That can then move over, from my understanding, to the new character. So whenever you get these Lumia Leaves, don't go too ham on Gwen, especially if you're not going to use her as one of your 3 characters for the in-game, for the acclaim system. And again, the reason why I mentioned 3 characters is because of the gates. So when we come back in here, gate number 2 was going to have you do 3 characters with silver medals, and that's quite a big ask, when you're talking silver medals for these characters, you're talking 55,100 power for a 4-star character, or somebody like Gwen, it's going to ask you to get to 55,600 power. And for the gold, for example, I need to be at 65,100 power. So that's also something that you want to consider when you're picking one of your 3 characters, is that your 4-star characters are easier to guild and easier to get up and easier to go through and get their coins, while these characters may end up being more powerful overall. They also require more of an investment in resources to get them to where you need to get through your acclaim system. So that's additional things to think about. Get ready for the new character when the season begins. And again, we're right now at season 0 in the preparation season, but once the new season starts here in 1 day and 7 hours as of this recording, you'll see the new character and you'll be able to start using your daybreak engrams. Hopefully you guys have been taking your opportunities to do your bounties so that you can get those stored up. They've got some pretty cool cosmetics for Furies, different skins for weapons, and emblems and pigmentation if you're using that, if you're interacting with that as part of the store. But other than that, that's pretty much all of my tips and tricks as far as the things that I've done and made a mistake on that I can think, hey, this is what I should have done differently. Especially my biggest mistake being that I allowed the game to choose my characters for me, right? I leveled up Wolf because of the campaign. I leveled up Gwen because I happened to think, oh, she was cool. And then later on, I said, I like Yolder better. I like Yolder's abilities better. But I'd already put a bunch of stuff into Gwen, and then I didn't get Yolder's exotic. I got Gwen's exotic as a drop. So I used that exotic, and I said, well, let me use Gwen now because I have this exotic. I can get higher power. She's going to be easier to get there. And then with Atal, the game basically picked Atal for me. They kept giving me over and over again. Anytime I pulled, it was always an Atal, and I maxed her out so fast. I mean, it's cool to have the little moving icon and stuff, and she is very powerful when she's maxed out. She's really hard to defeat for the enemies. Because you got your self-heal, and you can bounce around. Crimson helps you heal as well. And if you hit your headshots, you got pretty much infinite ammo. Whenever she reloads, she has those little rockets that do quite a bit of damage. So her primary can chunk down Shinkas pretty well when you're helping out on a Shinka. So she's a good character. I'm not trying to talk down on Atal for people who like Atal. I'm just saying that she was chosen for me. If I had my 3 choices, it would have probably been like Tantu, Yolder, and then maybe I might have tried Atal or Finala. And then, of course, Wolf is good. I do like Wolf. And having the acclaim system allow you to give you Wolf's abilities is pretty cool as well. Once you get through the acclaim system, you'll get this additional. And then once you get next week when they open up the acclaim system fully, you'll get the last crystals and you'll be able to have a fully completed Wolf. Not too much to complain about. Again, overall, my experience with Destiny Rising has been very rewarding. I told my friends just recently, it feels like I'm playing Destiny 1's universe still, but like a kind of a good proper sequel to Destiny 1. Like, this is kind of what Destiny 2 should have been like when Destiny 2 Vanilla first released, and people were not quite satisfied with the feel of Destiny 2. The game is beautiful, Destiny 2, and the gameplay is great, and the gunplay is unmatched, but NetEase has done such a good job at emulating Destiny 1's feel and that kind of that same character feel. The lore is very similar to the same level of Destiny lore. It's not like super high level lore like Destiny 2 tried to get into with a lot of the fundament stuff and a lot of the layered stories, which is good, and I'm glad Destiny 2 had that because it was a very rewarding thing to play. But it's just nice to have a easy, simple, and coherent lore that respects a lot of the characters and doesn't get too crazy with the concepts. It's just very on point, doesn't get in the way of the game, but also doesn't get to the point where it's like D1 lore, where it's like, what is even happening right now? Like, you still know what's happening. I'll be making a video series coming up talking about some of the things that NetEase has done really well that Bungie can learn from, and kind of going through different sections so that it can be highlighted so people could understand that haven't got into Destiny Rising yet maybe, or are still considering it, that this is a game that's worth your time, and it will reward you for that time, where a lot of people were not feeling that same way about Destiny 2 for quite a long time. Now, if you have any questions on any of the tips and tricks I offered today, or if you have anything you want to add, you can always go ahead and drop me a comment down below. I try to get to most of my responses as I can. And thanks very much for watching my guide today. I'll see you guys in the next one.